Hello and welcome everyone. Stanford Scholar presents to you the paper Visualizing Large-Scale and High-Dimensional Data. The authors are Jiang Tian, Jinzu Liu, Ming Zhang, and Kuozu Mei. Let's begin with data visualization. So, what exactly is data visualization and why is it important? In simple words, data visualization is the translation of numbers into visuals, and we do this because it provides the ability to understand information better and the ability to analyze data quicker. So, visualization is the bridge between big data and big ideas. So, the present problem is that the current approach suffers high computational cost and scaling issues. Now, data visualization methods largely involve two main things. First, computing a similarity structure of the data points and then projecting the structure onto the 2D or 3D space. Similarity structure is constructed by grouping similar points, but this task is very costly in terms of computer run time. It's O(n squared d). So as an example of utility in the real world, if we consider the structure of proteins, it is directly related to their biological function, and this allows comparisons and predictions. Now, the existing approaches roughly uses three categories of techniques for similarity construction. The first one is space partitioning, which is dividing the entire space into different regions and constructing the tree structures. And the nearest neighbor graph can then be made by traversing these trees. The second technique is locality-sensitive hashing, which is grouping similar data points, into the same buckets. And the final one is neighbor exploration, which uses an iterative process to refine the NN tree by exploring neighbors of neighbors. Moving on to the second aspect in data visualization is projecting data onto low-dimensional space while preserving the structure, which can be done by dimensionality reduction using linear or non-linear methods. Now, the linear methods such as PCA and the multidimensional scaling usually don't work well because high-dimensional data lies usually on a non-linear manifold. So now let's discuss the non-linear methods such as isomap, local linear embedding, and Laplacian eigenmaps. These are very effective on lab datasets, but unable to preserve both the local and the global structures of data. Another nonlinear method, called t-SNE, preserves both these structures, but is difficult to scale up. Now this is our second problem. So you see, t-SNE works well on small datasets, but not for large dataset visualization. So because of the problems we just discussed, there was a need to find some algorithm that is faster, accurate, efficient with less computational costs, and easily scalable over high dimensions. So what's the proposed solution? LargeVis. LargeVis first constructs an accurate KNN graph and then projects it on the low-dimensional space. LargeVis works towards reducing computational costs and improving efficiency and effectiveness. First, it identifies the high-dimensional feature vectors, uses an efficient, accurate algorithm for finding the KNN of the data points present in high-dimensional space. Then, it creates a probabilistic model for graph visualization, which is optimized through asynchronous stochastic gradient descent. And finally, it constructs a graph using random projection trees followed by neighbor exploration. Let's go further into how a random projection tree is made. A hyperplane is merely a low-dimensional space that bisects the total space. So in two-dimensional, a hyperplane can be a straight line, that's 1D. We can see how the dots on the left are separated by the red line into two colors. And on the right side, we can see how the tree is formed. From the yellow node, representing the whole dataset, we see two emerging branches, blue and green dots. The dots are further separated into more colored dots, and on the right side, the tree takes shape. The process is repeated again and again until the leaves or groups of dots of the same color are of a fixed maximum size. That the process is repeated many times and we get different collection of groups of leaves or groups of the same color in the end. So how do we decide what to keep? Only the data points on the same leaf are considered as nearest neighbors. So now that we have a forest of leaves, it's time to reduce using a technique called neighbor exploration, which is based on the idea that the neighbor of my neighbor is also my neighbor, or better said, second neighbors are also candidates of first neighbors. So let's move on to comparison between t-SNE and LodgeWis. Authors compared these four algorithms against four datasets on both k-nearest graph construction and graph visualization, and they found that LodgeWis regarding KNN graph building attained more than 90% accuracy in less time as compared to other algorithms. So what you see here are the different datasets used to evaluate the performance of the new proposed algorithm against other algorithms on KNN graphs and graph visualization. So authors used an intermediate representation of the raw databases, reducing the number of dimensions to 100. This dimensionality reduction is not absolutely necessary for LodgeWis, but softens the similarity of the structures of the original data and facilitates comparison among other different algorithms. Let's consider the graph construction performance. t-SNE needed 16 hours of runtime, that is 3 million data points with 100 dimensions. LodgeWis needed 25 minutes, which is over 30 times faster than t-SNE. Moving on to accuracy versus the number of neighbors in KNN, it's found that LodgeWis is more effective or comparable to t-SNE with optimal learning rates. On small datasets, t-SNE and LodgeWis performs same with optimal parameters. On large datasets, LodgeWis outperforms t-SNE with default optimal parameters, as optimal learning rate vary for different data sizes in case of t-SNE. Going over the efficiency of the graph on 3 million data points, t-SNE took 45 hours, whereas LodgeWis took 5.6 hours. This is 7 times faster. Lastly, commenting on performance, accuracy, and efficiency evaluation. Firstly, for evaluation of data visualization, they chose the probabilistic function by plotting a graph between accuracy and number of neighbors in KNN. And secondly, others have compared these four algorithms in terms of accuracy, number of neighbors in KNN, and running time by varying the datasets. And finally, they concluded that in all aspects, LodgeWis performs better than t-SNE. So with that, we come to the end of the presentation. Let's now review the properties of LodgeWis. LodgeWis lays out large-scale and high-dimensional data on a low-dimensional space. By scalability, LodgeWis easily scales up to millions of data points with hundreds of dimensions. LodgeWis uses effective and efficient algorithm for constructing the approximate KNN graphs and a probabilistic model for graph visualization. LodgeWis outperforms t-SNE in both the graph construction and graph visualization in terms of efficiency, effectiveness, and quality of visualizations. Considering the future work, authors plan to use the low-dimensional layouts generated by the LodgeWis as the basis for more advanced, intuitive, and meaningful visualizations for high-dimensional data, and to allow dynamic changes over time. And that concludes our presentation. This talk was created as a part of Stanford Scholar Platform, an initiative to make research more accessible and collaborative. If you would like to know more about us or view more of our talks, visit scholar.stanford.edu. Thank you.